Oh, good morning. Good morning. There you are. Sorry. Apologies for still finishing off a bit of tea. I am running late this morning. Okay. What have we got for you today? Well, we've got the point that we were all dreading in GB and the and the EU/NI, because we've definitely hit the point where we're starting to need two labels, one for GB and one for EU/NI. And that has been triggered by a customer coming through going, oh, I got this titanium dioxide in a formulation and I'm selling it into GB, NI, and Republic of Ireland. And so it's one of these situations where this is so new. It only happened in June that the titanium dioxide classification as carcinogen was removed from the UK mandatory classification list, sorry, GB mandatory classification list. And of course, the situation with titanium dioxide classification is it was classified as H351 carcinogen in the EU. It went to the European Court of Justice. They ruled that that was an incorrect classification and it should be deprecated. And I'm just putting the link to that ruling there. And we are currently in a very weird situation where the competent authority responsible for the incorrect classification in the first place, ANSSIs in France, they're appealing, and a couple of other people are appealing, have joined the appeal with them, and I think ECHA have joined the appeal as well. Now, what's really strange is that the appeal is not on the grounds of the technical data. They're saying, no, the Court of Justice hasn't got the power to overrule what ECHA have done. In other words, you're right, but we don't think you should be able to tell us that we're wrong. Yeah, nice one, ANSSIs, nice one. Very scientific approach, no? Anyway, sorry, that was hashtag sarcasm. So anyway, the situation is H351 in the EU, and it is, if it's not H351, then some formulations will include EUH211 or EUH212. EUH211 is the one for liquids and 212 is the one for powder. But if your titanium dioxide particles are not in nanoform, it's not classified. I mean, the whole thing is just terribly weird. But if you are selling something like a paint with titanium dioxide in it and it's going into both jurisdictions, GB and EU/NI, you definitely need two labels. Why? Well, unless the titanium dioxide is not classified in the EU, I will caveat that. So why do you need two labels? Well, if your product is classified for titanium dioxide in the EU, first of all, it's likely to be an incorrect classification. It is not the most up-to-date information. It is not best practice. But secondly, here in GB, the fact that the HSE have removed titanium dioxide from the mandatory classification list means they think it is an unsound classification. Do you want to go toe-to-toe with the HSE in a court case over this? No, I wouldn't either. They're very likely to win. You know, where there is dispute between the two jurisdictions, our normal advice is go with the most precautionary, because you know, if you've got data to back it up, and nobody's going to sue you for being a bit of a worrywart. But this is the exception. This is the point at which we go, sorry guys, I don't think you can do this anymore. You've got to have two separate labels if titanium dioxide affects the classification of your product. And I know that for a lot of businesses, that is going to be a pain in the behind of enormous proportions, because it means, you know, you're going to have two different product codes for the same, essentially the same product. But it does mean you'll be able to have your GB address on one and your EU/NI address on the other with the different classifications. So it's a problem. It's the start of the issue. Larger companies who took a proactive stance and have been doing this from the day of Brexit are probably going, yeah, we told you this was coming. But smaller companies, which is kind of everybody else below the massive multinational level, yeah, sorry guys, it has arrived. We are going to have to do this. Your decisions are going to have to alter on how you sell. You know, do we stop it in one jurisdiction or the other? How do we manage this? What happens if we have to take some from A and sell it in B because it's selling well there and not the other? Yeah, it's a mess. And that's before we come to the point of what the hell is the Labour government going to do about chemical regulations? Now they suddenly go, no, just follow what ECHA does. So the whole thing could still change. But as we stand now, we at least, I think we at least need to be moving towards the two label situation for products which genuinely have different classifications in both jurisdictions. Right, I shall get off my soapbox. Second thing I have for you is something that hit me like a blooming steam train. It was like, poof, one of these things that you just don't think about as a scientist. I got into a bit of a discussion on LinkedIn with some people this week. One of the people who was kind of coming at it from my angle, which is it's to do with the climate debate. And I'm just trying to say, you know, we need to look at things in the round. We need to consider everything because whatever the downside, there's the data I put in last week's newsletter that there's been a massive increase in crop yields across the whole planet because of the increase in carbon dioxide. And we've got to weigh everything up really, really carefully. And I took a bit of flack for that from the single issue pressure group people. But one of the more sympathetic people said, hey, I think you'd like this video. And it was a lad called Freeman Dyson, very important physicist. And he was talking about, you know, is carbon dioxide really as big a problem as we think it is? But what really hit me was a Japanese colleague of his who worked on the models in the 60s has a view that the models for climate are useful, or atmospheric models in general, are useful for understanding how it works, but they're useless at predicting real world situations because there are just far too many parameters. Now, it's a really, really interesting thing because I use different types of models in my own business. And I know that I got a lot of issues with the predictive models. I talk about that in the big newsletter this week. But I've got the video of Freeman Dyson explaining this view of his Japanese colleague. And it's really, really interesting. And I think it's something that we as scientists should be very, very aware of. You know, are we doing a model for understanding, or are we doing it for prediction? And if we are doing it for prediction, how useful is it? Is it really going to work? So I'm just going to put the link to the video below this video just now, and I'll also bob a link in the chat here about chemicals coffee time if you want to see a bit more about why I think it's such an important concept. And, you know, we use models all the time, don't we? And not all models are equal. Not all models are equally useful. Not all models are equally accurate. And we really need to be sensitive to that. Right. So leaving all these quite heavy discussions on one side, what are our reasons to be cheerful today? I'm glad you asked me that because we've got an Olympics fail thing. Now, I like positive things generally. I don't like seeing people fail at things. I would rather that people were successful. However, what I do like about this is the way that a lot of the people who are failing at sport, because it's part of our sporting theme, they dust themselves off and they carry on, which is a great, great thing for us all to do. So I'm just putting this below this video now. My God, it's been a long one today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to chat to you again next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.